Plate numbers ending in 1 and 2 should not be on the road during the prescribed hours on Mondays, 3 and 4 on Tuesdays, 5 and 6 on Wednesdays, 7 and 8 on Thursdays, and 9 and 0 on Fridays.
Mas okay din naman, sir. Para kahit papaano mabawasan din yung
BGC, let's say for BGC, so makakamove ako ng morning.
The MMDA says they will not apprehend ready be issued starting August 18.
We are expecting a 13% increase sa volume ng traffic sa EDSA. With the number coding in place, it will be lessened by 20%.
Ang MMDA po is magde-deploy ng 2,300 plus na hindi lang enforcers. Meron kaming taga-traffic engineering. Ano bang gagawin ng traffic engineering? Naglalagay kami ng mga pedestrian lanes, mga road signs para po doon sa safety.
The MMDA is now coordinating with the Transportation Department on the deployment of additional buses on EDSA and other areas where the old public utility vehicle routes will be reopened to address the influx of passengers.
We will issue the memorandum circular on these new routes or modified routes, as you will call it, para to address the need for more buses and vehicles for the face-to-face classes. Kasama po ang jeepney at saka UV Express doon sa i-reopen natin ng mga ruta.
The MMDA will also deploy additional ferries along Pasig River and will still provide free rides using MMDA buses from Commonwealth Avenue to Welcome Rotonda from 6 to 8 a.m. Some clearing of road obstructions are also ongoing to help address the traffic congestion. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Expect a decision on fare hike petitions before classes resume. The LTFRB says it's still waiting for the National Economic and Development Authority to submit a position by Wednesday, August 17th. Bus groups have been appealing for a 4 to 7 peso fare hike and more adjustments beyond the first 5 kilometers. A commuters protection group urges the board not to increase bus fares by over 2 pesos, while drivers and operators hope officials will heed their pleas as they grapple with high fuel prices. LTFRB Chairperson Cheloy Garafil says the board will release a decision by next week.
We recognize that there's really yung gas prices ay talagang tumaas na since the last fare increase ng mga buses. But we also recognize na magkakaroon talaga ito ng impact sa ating mga pasahero. That's why we're very, very careful. Babalansin talaga po natin.
Bus fares were last raised in 2018 when fuel cost 44 pesos per liter. No talks yet on making similar implementing rules for the no-contact apprehension policy here in Metro Manila, but the Metro Manila Development Authority says it is open to discussing the matter. The new system captures traffic violations through cameras. It is in effect in the cities of Manila, Valenzuela, Parañaque, and Quezon City.
That is something that can be discussed po, pero then again, the MMDA recognizes po the local autonomy of our local government units at for now we respect their own version of the no-contact apprehension program.
The Land Transportation Office, meanwhile, says local governments have agreed to review guidelines in light of complaints from public utility vehicle operators. The regulator earlier called for the suspension of the policy as it seeks to iron out the rules. President Bongbong Marcos says he's working with Congress for the creation of the Virology Institute and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The chief executive notes the passage of these priority measures will prepare the country for any future outbreaks.
We have been in consultation with the House of Representatives and the Senate to create these agencies, so that we can bring them to bear in what we are up to now continuing to have to fight. We will continue to work so that our people are safer, so that our citizens have better access to health care, and so that the quality of our health care will improve.
Senate President Mig Zubiri has committed to work a double time to pass the key measures, and that it should have been Virology Institute. The COVID-19 vaccination law may be at risk of or may no longer be in effect at least 1 month from now. As Caroline Bonkin reports, the health officer in charge calls for amendments to the law so that vaccination efforts will be unhampered in case the president lifts the state of calamity declaration.
Shaira Nicole Valencia is a postgraduate intern at Manila Med. She had a hard time getting a second COVID booster shot because of her long shift. She took the chance when the hospital offered vaccines on Wednesday.
Busy schedule, kaya hindi rin po makapagpabaksin agad. As an additional protection din dahil sabi nga nila para tumataas ulit yung kaso ng COVID. Para din, walang maging problema sa work.
Almost halfway through the president's first 100 days in office, the vaccine coverage has hardly moved. Based on the government's daily target, over 5 million people should have been vaccinated from July 26 to August 7. But the actual turnout, only over 440,000 vaccinees. This leaves over 22 million people yet to get boosted and over 2 million senior citizens to complete doses by October 8.
We cannot say it's effective or not until we go on and reach our target timeline. Ang mga tao, nasa trabaho, nasa kanilang mga ginagawa during the weekday, no? So kailangan lamang po natin bigyan pa ng more push.
DOH wants more vaccination on weekends and in hard-to-reach areas. With the possible lifting of state of calamity, Vergere says there's a need to amend the COVID Vaccination Program Act to ensure the vaccination doesn't stop. The law is only effective while the country is under a state of calamity.
Dito po nakataya ang mga EUA ng ating bakuna, nakatali ang emergency procurement na atin pong nagagawa because of the pandemic. And nakatali din po dito ang pagkontrol natin ng presyo ng iba't ibang commodities because of the pandemic.
Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri says the Senate will look into it.
Kung time-bound siya, di-extend natin yung validity ng batas. Para sa ganun, may kapangyarihan po ang DOH na ituloy ang kanilang mga programa.
This law allows the national and local governments and the private sector to buy COVID-19 vaccines for emergency use. This means allowing use of COVID-19 vaccines, which are all still completing the final phase of the trial. It exempts vaccines from import duties, taxes, and other fees, which means getting supplies at a lower cost. The law also allows allocation of funds to compensate death, permanent disability, or hospital confinement due to COVID-19 vaccines, and enables licensed pharmacies and midwives as vaccinators. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
Up next, regulators are facing an investigation over a supposedly illegal resolution to import sugar and tributes pour in for sprint queen Lydia De Vega, who reached the finish line after a battle with cancer. Newsnight will be right back.
SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay. SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Ito ang RBN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Tonight on CNN Philippines, sugar regulators now facing an investigation over a supposed illegal resolution allowing the importation of hundreds of thousands of metric tons of the commodity. Rex Remigio has more details.
Why did the Sugar Regulatory Administration issue a resolution directing the importation of 300,000 metric tons of sugar without the President's knowledge? This is one of the questions that have to be answered as Malacanang launches an investigation. As the Sugar Regulatory Board Chair, only President Marcos has the power to convene the board and set the meeting's agenda. Press Secretary Trixie Angeles explains the board cannot convene in the President's absence unless he allowed it. Angeles says the President did not authorize the meeting nor the so-called Resolution Number 4 on the importation of 300,000 metric tons of sugar. She also says the Chief Executive did not authorize Agriculture Undersecretary Leocadio Sebastian to sign the resolution. The Press Secretary adds Sebastian's assignment is only to represent the President in meetings that the President cannot attend.
Importations are a sensitive matter, particularly with regard to agricultural importations. Sugar is one such importation which we take great care with. It is a balancing act.
Secretary Angeles explains they need to balance the welfare of consumers and farmers. More imports when there's enough supply could depress sugar prices and reduce farmers' income. Angeles says the harvest season is near and the country already imported 200,000 metric tons last May.
An investigation is ongoing to determine whether any acts that would cause the President to lose trust and confidence in his officials can be found, or if there is malice or negligence involved. In such a case, if such findings are made, then the only determination left will be how many heads are going to roll.
The press secretary says the President will follow due process on the investigation. Meanwhile, Angeles says Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez has ordered the creation of an importation plan to study how imports could affect the coming harvest. This will also be the basis for the President's decision if it's really necessary. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Malacanang says it will allow those involved to explain their side, but they may face penalties if the President is not satisfied with their explanation. ABS-CBN Corporation, which failed to have its broadcast franchise renewed in Congress 2 years ago, will become a minority shareholder of TV5. ABS-CBN announced it will acquire a nearly 35% stake in TV5 for 2.16 billion pesos. ABS-CBN further said it will increase its ownership to nearly half, or 49.92%, after 8 years. Manny Pangilinan-led Media Quest Holdings remains the majority shareholder of TV5. Media Quest Signal Cable is also acquiring a 38.88% stake in ABS-CBN's Sky Cable. Both networks are optimistic the buy-in will enhance TV5's capability to deliver content and coverage. The National Telecommunications Commission is now looking to review ABS-CBN's supposed violations, which led to the non-renewal of its franchise in the previous Congress. The NTC says the Justice Department, Land Registration Authority, and the Philippine Competition Commission, or PCC, will help out with the review, while the PCC says it has not been consulted about the buy-in. ABS-CBN has maintained that it complied with laws in its previous franchise. The Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Securities and Exchange Commission also said in 2020 the embattled media giant did not violate any corporate law.
Vice Chairman Boy, maaari po, Mr. Gabi Lopez. Your lawyer...
It's not really a question of fact, it's a question of law.
No, it's a question of fact. You see, isn't that... Yun lang naman ang tanong ko. Thank you. Thank you. That's all.
News overseas now. Uncertainty looms following China's military drills around Taiwan, triggered by the visit of United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to the island. Beijing says it has completed its mission and yet is planning to conduct regular patrols near Taipei. Tristan Adalum reports Filipinos in Taiwan are concerned for their safety.
China calls its series of military exercises around Taiwan a success and now eyes to hold regular patrols around the island. Beijing says the recent joint military drill showcased its combat capabilities from long-range live fire drills, conventional missile tests, and air and submarine control operations.
近期在台岛周边海空域，战区部队将紧盯台海形势变化，持续开展练兵备战。
Over in Taipei, overseas Filipino worker and community leader Hilda Banugan says they have yet to receive information on the plans of the government amid the rising tensions. They even wrote a letter to Philippine officials in Taiwan to raise their concerns.
Nagpanik po yung ating mga kababayan on the first day, second day, kung ano yung kanilang mga plano at kung sakali meron ba silang mga kinakasang mga pagpapatawag sa mga community groups, leaders. So, sinasabi po natin sa kanila na baka i-include tayo, baka kung sakaling magkaroon sila ng meeting, ay i-invite naman tayo para maging preparado rin naman tayo.
Newly appointed Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Chief Arnel Ignacio and the Foreign Affairs Department say there are contingency plans in place for Filipinos in Taiwan.
OWA, lagi naman kami nakamonitor. So, in the event na mag-escalate ito, nakahanda naman tayo.
There are always contingency plans in place. They are, in fact, in touch with employers, with local companies, and the Filipino community leaders to implement these contingency plans in case.
China maintains that their military drills around Taiwan are justified and legitimate and will serve as a warning to any provocative moves. In Beijing, China, Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
Back home, the Philippine tarsier finds its way to Tacloban, Leyte. While tarsiers can be found in Leyte and nearby islands, it is the first time for the endangered species to be spotted in the province's capital. The University of the Philippines Visayas Tacloban validated the presence of the tarsier in the forest after reported sightings in neighboring towns. Researchers say the presence of the species in Tacloban highlights the city as a key biodiversity area. Up ahead, Asia's fastest woman, Lydia De Vega, runs her final race after a 4-year battle with cancer. And NBA star Jalen Green is in Manila once again for a series of events with the sportswear brand. Keep it here on Newsnight.
Life is many things. Some it's messy, but the bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan ni tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay SMC. San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Ito ang RBN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back. Asia's fastest woman in the 1980s ran her final race. Track and field legend Lydia De Vega died at the age of 57 last night at the Makati Medical Center after a long battle with breast cancer. Andre Felix tells us about her lasting impact on a number of figures in the sports industry.
No one else could sprint like her in the 80s. That's why Lydia De Vega was hailed the fastest woman in Asia. One of the most decorated Filipino athletes of all time, De Vega won numerous medals in the Southeast Asian Games, the Asian Games, and the Asian Athletics Championships. She also represented the country in the 1984 and 1988 Olympics. For De Vega, there was nothing quite like competing for the country.
It's really fun, exciting,
Kasi iba yung pag nagko-compete ka sa sarili mong bansa, nandiyan yung mga Pilipino talaga na sumusuporta sa'yo, nagdadasal para sa'yo. Actually, even though na sa ibang bansa kami nagko-compete, I know naman na yung mga Filipino people hindi kami pinababayaan. But then pagka nagko-compete ka sa sarili mong bansa, mas iba yung feelings niya.
She held the 100-meter and 200-meter run national records for over 3 decades. De Vega was also once known as the darling of Philippine sports. So the news of her passing due to cancer broke the hearts of many. Her daughter Stephanie said De Vega fought the very good fight and is now at peace. The sports icon retired from competition in 1994. She was last seen by the public in 2019 when she carried the SEA Games Federation flag along with 7 other Filipino world champions. In that same event, pole vaulter E.J. Obiena was the country's flag bearer. Obiena earlier pledged to help De Vega.
First of all, I wouldn't be here without her. You can't say track and field without saying Lydia. So I wouldn't be Ernest John Obiena, the pole vaulter, without Lydia De Vega, the sprint queen. So it's just a simple way to say, thank you.
New Day host Christine Jacob Sandejas, who was De Vega's fellow Olympian, has nothing but praises for the sprint queen.
Lydia was an amazing, amazing athlete. She was home trained, never trained abroad at all. Considering all the accolades that she has, accomplished and accumulated throughout her athletic career, she remained so humble, down to earth, and she was she was so kalog, kumbaga. I mean, she was such a wonderful person to begin with. But what really stood out with her most of all was that she made it on her own.
To young Filipino athletes also hoping to make it on their own, just remember what the track and field legend once said.
Kasi ang pagiging atleta po hindi madali Kailangan mo talagang pagbuhusan to ng panahon. Kailangan pagbuhusan mo to ng maraming disiplina. Kailangan mo rin yung iyong dream ay hindi mawala. You don't give up. Kasi ako po hindi po ako nag-give up.
Felix with that report, honoring the late track and field icon. Personalities from sports and beyond paid tribute to De Vega. In a statement, President Marcos expressing his condolences to Lydia's loved ones and said, quote, "She has fought a good fight. Let us pray for her peace." House Speaker Martin Romualdez calls her one of the greatest Pinoy athletes. He also highlighted the need to support Filipinos in sports, not only while they are competing, but also in retirement. De Vega's family asked for financial help last month after the athlete underwent many procedures, including brain surgery. Bowling legend Paeng Nepomuceno says De Vega's death is a sad day for Philippine sports. Nepomuceno and De Vega served as flag bearers in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games here at home. Another sports great, 8-division boxing world champ Manny Pacquiao says Lydia's success helped shine a light on the Philippines. Houston Rockets guard Jalen Green is making the most of his trip back to the country for a tour with a sportswear brand. Fans' anticipation on his third visit has reached fever pitch now that he is a legit NBA star. Pauline Versosa gives us the details.
After a stellar rookie year in the NBA, Filipino-American Jalen Green makes his way back to the Philippines. This marks the third time the 20-year-old athlete is visiting the country and his first as an NBA player. The Houston Rockets high-flying guard admits he's overwhelmed by the unwavering support of Filipino fans since the beginning of his young basketball career.
Coming here to the Philippines, everyone gives so much love and support, so to come back and give my love and support back to them, it means the world to me. And then to change since from when I was in high school, came here my sophomore, junior year, to now it's still been the same, and I appreciate everyone for keeping that same love and energy.
While on an exclusive tour with a sports apparel brand, Green says he looks forward to not only reconnecting with his fans, but also exploring more of his Filipino heritage, with his mother tracing her roots in Ilocos Sur.
Just being here with all the people, seeing all the fans, and going back to my family's hometown and just seeing what the culture is like there.
As the second overall pick by the Rockets in the 2021 rookie draft, Green is only the third NBA player with Filipino descent. He's also considered one of the league's most promising young stars, averaging 17.3 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 2.6 assists per game in his rookie year. For the next season, Green says he's set to bounce back from the team's dismal campaign, with the Rockets finishing dead last with 20 wins and 62 losses.
My mindset is just to go in and be the best version of myself on and off the court. Like I said, try to build a winning mentality. The thing with my team, like you said, we're very young, so we're in a rebuild right now, trying to get everyone on the same page, trying to grow in the right direction.
The new NBA season will tip off in October. Pauline Verzosa, CNN Philippines.
Stay tuned for CNN Philippines Conversation with Jalen Green live tomorrow on Sports Desk at 10 a.m. The countdown to Drag Race Philippines just got more exciting. 3 more personalities have been cast as rotating guest judges. Photographer BJ Pascual, actor John Santos, and fashion designer Rajo Laurel are joining the likes of comedian Karen and Drag Race legend Jiggly Caliente. Drag Race Philippines premieres August 17th, hosted by TV actor Paolo Ballesteros. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio HONTIVEROS for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang radyo